One of the biggest problems on our homestead is very bad soil. I have this gritty sand, and when it rains, if it's bare, it just washes away and it ruts out, and it doesn't hold organic matter well, and it leaches like crazy. But if you look back here in the woods, there's a lot of life there, and if I go and I dig in the forest floor, I can find humus like this. Beneath it is that dead gray looking sand, but there's this layer of humus. Now, in order to maintain that, you have to have a lot of life on top of the ground, or you have to be bringing in materials from elsewhere. If I were to go around and try to deep mulch this entire yard, or bring in enough compost or manure to try to improve it all and get great crops and yields, it would be a never-ending process like this. But fortunately, God gave us a toolkit. Plants. All kinds of plants. There are plants that will accumulate phosphorus. There are plants that create nitrogen literally out of thin air with the help of certain microorganisms on their roots. There are a lot of plants that are great at making a lot of biomass out of sunshine. And so what I'm going to do is take big chunks of open ground that I couldn't amend otherwise, and I'm going to regeneratively farm them, like Gabe Brown would say, and cover the areas with cover crop mixes, all different plant species, and then take our little cows and run them through to crush them into the ground and manure it and bring lots of life and get that incredible power of grazing animals and manure and biological life to pump some life into the soil and make it more like a sponge rather than a desert.
Oh yeah, there's a total area.
There are some storms allegedly coming in this evening, and it's supposed to rain through tomorrow, and we don't get a lot of rain this time of year, so this is important. We want to catch it. So the area behind me is about 1/6 of an acre, and we seeded this first, and this is the area that's in front of where the chickens usually forage, and I'm not letting the chickens forage now because they would eat every single seed in this mix. But we spread out this hay, which is supposed to be graze-on free hay that I got locally. They spray other stuff on their fields, but they apparently don't spray persistent herbicide. And so I got a load of this. This is Argentine Bahia grass, which is a much desired pasture grass that makes a lot of mass. It also has a lot of seeds in it of that Argentine Bahia, which is great because I want those seeds spread out here too. I want this to become long-term pasture, even though we're sowing a whole bunch of annuals to begin with only a few perennials in it. There are some grasses here, and if we can get some of this Argentine Bahia coming in too, we got to get that life going in the ground and the carbon going in the ground and the sugars being pumped into the ground to bring the soil life up. So we throw it down first, and then you just cover it very lightly with the hay to shade the ground and allow the seeds to germinate. If you've ever seen these construction crews working on the sides of the road where they're fixing a swale or digging a drain or something like that, you'll see this. You'll see the highway crews, you know, they throw down some straw along with all of the seeds that they throw out to reseed the edges of the highway, and we're doing that here. It's a no-till method. If I tilled all of this area, that ground would rut out in the next storm. There are already ruts just from me driving the tractor through and killing some of the grass, and it tears through and ruts, and we don't want that. The other thing that we were lacking was we didn't have enough sunshine, so there were a couple of leaning trees and a rotten tree in here. We cut those out, and this is just mostly sunshine, even though it's got a woody border to it. And we're going to do a new area, so I'm going to take you with me so you can see how we lay it down in real time, just in case me talking about it isn't good enough. We have to do like an artistic thing and show it. Our seed mixture contains some vegetable seeds, like some extra corn that I had laying around and some popcorn. And there are mung beans in here, and there's buckwheat in here, and there's white clover, and there's fennel and cumin and parsley, and there is Crotalaria junkia, which is known as sun hemp. There are black oil sunflowers. There are Sudan sorghum grass seeds in here and buckwheat and a bunch of other seeds that I had, including turnips. There's a mixture of cool and warm season stuff together to get a wide amount of different root pathways. There's also some winter rye and some rye grain and some oats and some wheat, and I'm just seeing more and more seeds in here. Anyhow, we just mix a whole bunch of stuff together and throw it over the area, and then nature can select out anything that gets some life in the soil and starts pumping sugars in there and builds some biomass is what we want. And a mix of biomass and nitrogen fixtures is really important.
You think so? What? What?
Around this pond area, there were a bunch of scrubby trees and small oaks and other things that were growing, and there's a dam that protects this area and keeps the pond from overflowing. But if you have tree roots and everything growing through a dam, it's not really a good thing. You want roots, but you don't want roots like that. You don't want big tunnels going through and making it permeable. So we cleared that out of here, and I took a bush hog through this area, and we have this sloping sandy area now that was underneath a lot of shrubby cover. And so I'm doing a different experiment here where I'm using Fukuoka style seed balls with clay and a little bit of manure mixed in with a wide mix of seeds, and we're putting it into the banks. And it's much more time consuming than just throwing the seeds and the hay around, but you know me, I've always got to try like every single method. And I did this before when I was putting in food forests, and we had some luck with the method, but I thought in this sandy, nasty soil, some little bombs of clay mixed with manure and a whole bunch of seeds ought to be a good method. If you cannot make enough compost, you can simply grow it in place. That's the power of green manure. And if you can add the additional power of having it grazed by ruminants, that is even better. The sheer amount of life that you end up with in the system is amazing. But if you can't do that and you're on a backyard scale, what you do is you grow it yourself. You grow the most biomass producing, nitrogen fixing stuff you can get, a nice big mix of it on an area that you want to improve, and chop it, let it rot, gather it up, make it into compost if you want to, but just get that life into the ground. You are capturing the sunlight and turning it into sugars and carbon, and then nitrogen is getting captured out of the air and nutrients are getting accumulated. The ground is being held together, the ground is being kept cool. There's so many benefits to getting that life in the soil, not to mention the bacterial and fungal growth that happens when the plants are exuding sugars from the roots. But all that together means you can grow fertility in place with a cover crop mix, and it will transform an area that you would have gone broke trying to buy compost for, or you would have broken your back trying to make enough compost for. You can make it right in place. Huge amount of root mass beneath the ground that you don't even see, plus all of what grows over the top. And as this grows in and we start grazing it and it gets thick and green and amazing, hopefully you can come back and see it. So be sure to like and subscribe. Catch me on the web at thesurvivalgardener.com, and check out my book, Compost Everything, The Good Guide to Extreme Composting, with all kinds of thrifty ways to feed your garden for free. And until next time, may your thumbs always be green.
This world is a terrifying place. So I try, yes I try, yes I try, yes I try.